This is the Yamaha TX81Z, or if you're American, the Yamaha TX81Z from 1987. Now this unit was used on goodness knows how many hit records back in the day, and as I borrowed one, I thought I'd try and make a 90s banger with it. I say 90s, it's more of a late 80s, early 90s sound, but that doesn't make for such a catchy video title. So as I make the track, I'm going to show you how I'm using the TX81Z within it. Let's go! So for drums, I'm going to start with, of course, the Roland TR909. Now I don't have a real one in my studio right now, but I have got the Roland Cloud. So I'm going to set up a kind of classic rolling beat with a bit of shuffle on it. Now the shuffle on the 909 is incremental, it's not a stepped thing, so you can dial it in until it feels right. So this is my drum pattern. Okay, and that's all well and good, and I'm going to do some fills and some variations in there, but basically that's the beat, and I'm sure you all know what a 909 is, so I'll move on. For bass, we're going to go to the TX81. Now there's a preset on here called Lately Bass, which is probably one of the most famous bass sounds of the era, and there's other variations of it that appear on other Yamaha FM synths, but I'm sure you recognise it. So this is that sound. Now I've put a list of songs that use that preset in the video description, and feel free to add any of your own because it is just everywhere, but with good reason because it's a really cool sound. So that's sitting very well with my 909 like this. Okay, so for piano sounds, we need a classic kind of piano riff in this song to give it the right kind of vibe. I'm going to use some FM piano sounds from the TX81Z, and I'm going to put a bit of chorus on them to make them a little less harsh, because the FM sounds tend to be a little bit bright and take the enamel off your teeth. So I've got two parts, and the first part is this. And then the second part is this. So if we put those together and pan them, we get this. So that's based around a Dorian mode chord progression of E minor to A major. There's a sus4 in there as well, which is very cliche for the era, and by layering up inversions of the chord, I thicken that up, and that's a really good thing to try, because if you just use the same triad or chord inversion twice, it's not going to sound as good as if you invert the chord and maybe even throw in some extended harmonies and some notes, you know, ninths, 11ths, that kind of thing. That's where it starts to get a bit smushy and a bit juicy. In the verse section, the chord progression changes and the bass line changes with it. And I've got two little sounds in there. I'm going to use a sample of a really famous Korg M1 patch, which is this organ sound, which I'm sure you recognise. And then I'm going to set up a couple of different organ sounds on the TX81. Now, organ sounds are dead easy to do on an FM synthesizer. You just start off with sine waves on your operators at different octaves or different harmonics, and then you play around with the balance of those, and you'll just get really quickly a kind of FM organ sound. And then you play around with the envelopes and the feedback to dial it in how you want it to sound. And I've double tracked two slightly different variations with different chord inversions again, and I've put some chorus on those to kind of smush them up and make them a bit more syrupy. And for the last instrumental part, I'm going to use a Roland TB-303, because everyone needs a 303, right? So I've got mine hooked up with MIDI, so I'm going to fire this part into it and then obviously play around with the cutoff and the envelope modulation and the decay and the attack. And that sounds like this. For the last thing we need is a vocal. We need a top line, we need a hook. And ideally, for the chorus, I'd have a big belting gospel singer style vocal. But I don't have a big gospel singer in my studio. Unfortunately, there isn't one in the cupboard. So what I'm going to do is attempt something myself, which I apologise for now. And I'm going to use some effects, and I'm going to use an AMS 1580S delay from the late 70s to do some automatic double tracking kind of effects on there. And that should make it slightly less offensive. So here is a 3-part harmony with some AMS doubling on it as well for the top line.
Now I'm saying I've got nothing left that I can lose, and I'm showing that there's nothing I should prove to you. Whoa. Now I'm saying I've got nothing left that I can lose, and I'm showing that there's nothing I should prove to you. Whoa.
It's kind of just about passable. I'm sure you can hear what I'm trying to do. And then for the verse, it gets worse because we need a rap. Now, I can't rap, but to make up for that, I've got some sunglasses and a silly hat. Now, I'm going to use the AMS again for some double tracking, but I'm going to pitch one of the delay lines down so I get that kind of low, thick, kind of slightly unreal rapping voice to cover up the fact that I can't rap to save my life. But hopefully that should give us the right kind of thing for the song, and to be honest, I'm not really taking this very seriously. So all that's really left to do is to sit back and listen to the end result. Thank you for watching.
Sounds are true to zero. I got midi to play the notes, sing back the melodies that I wrote. My tunes play across the nation, slicker than the CC information.
Now I'm saying I've got nothing left that I can lose, and I'm showing that there's nothing I should prove to you. Whoa. Now I'm saying I've got nothing left that I can lose, and I'm showing that there's nothing I should prove to you.
I'm back with more writing verse. The second time will probably be worse, but I'll give it my best shot. Crappy lyrics is all I got, but I'll bring some synth puns with them, references to algorithms, cause I'll be a smooth operator, your carrier, I'm modulator. Feedback, push the envelope, spit more rhymes to lose the choke. I got skills like learning the theory, which is why my sound ain't dreary. I got groove, it's so surprising. You stereoping, avoid menu diving, so I'm gonna smell you later. Leave you with the sounds of the tone